Hey guys, today we're going to talk about 10 essential items every student pilot needs to get started in flight training. We're also going to talk about what you don't need so you don't waste your money. Let's get started. For everybody new to my channel, my name is Omar. I'm a 20-year flight instructor. I've got 20,000 hours of flight time. I'm currently a flight school owner, and I've been working on getting my A&P license for the past 3 years. So what are these 10 items? All right, so the first essential item we're going to talk about are your books. The first book I'm going to recommend is the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. This is put out by the FAA. You can download it for free off the FAA website, faa.gov. There's a section labeled books. I like to use paper because you can touch it, fold it, mark it, highlight it, all the above. I know you can do that on an iPad as well, but I just like using paper. So if you like using paper, you can buy the book. It's 20 or 25 bucks depending on where you get it. The FAA will give it to you for free. That's the first item. All right, so the second book I would recommend is the Pilot's Operating Handbook for a Cessna 172. That's the plane that we use primarily for training. If your flight school is using a Piper or a light sport, you want to get the appropriate handbook for that aircraft. If you're asking yourself, why do I need an owner's manual of an airplane if I'm renting? Because the owner's manual is going to have all the available information that you need to know regarding the operation of that aircraft. Oil pressure, airspeed limitations, weight and balance, it's all in this book, and it's all information required for the check ride. Another book that's essential is the Oral Exam Guide. So I got a good story about the Oral Exam Guide. When I was getting ready for my private pilot training, I didn't know that this book existed. I walked into my classroom, saw another student pilot sitting there, saw this in his hand, and asked him, hey, what's that book? I borrowed it, read through it quickly, and I said, I don't know 90% of the information that's in this book, and my check ride is next week. I started panicking. I went out and bought the book. I studied it like crazy, passed my check ride. I strongly feel that without this book, I would not have passed my check ride. It's fairly inexpensive. It's $14.95, essential for passing your oral exam. It really helps guide you through an oral exam and helps you understand what are the essential questions that the designated pilot examiner is going to ask you during your check ride. Highly recommend this book. The next book that is essential is called Aviation Weather. Again, it's put out by the FAA. You can get a free copy of it downloaded from the FAA website. It's going to talk about aviation related weather. So how do we read weather reports as pilots, how to interpret charts, whatnot. So highly recommend you grab that book, bring it in, go over it with an instructor for about an hour, and go home and just dig into it. The next book I would recommend is the Airplane Flying Handbook. It's going to cover basics and fundamentals of flying. You can get a free copy of it at faa.gov. We're going to put the links in the description below so you know exactly where to go to get a free copy. Again, I prefer paper, so I would get a paper copy of it so I can highlight and write notes into it. All right, guys, the next book I would recommend is put out by Gleim. This is the book I used to pass my private pilot written test over 20 years ago. It's going to have 1,000 questions in here. The FAA is going to pull out 60 questions out of this 1,000 bank that they're going to ask you. Fairly straightforward. All you got to do is memorize the questions. All right, guys, so the next item that I recommend is essential is an E6B flight computer. This one's put out by the same company, Gleim, that put out the written test prep. This is the paper copy of one. iPhone makes an app that you can download and use on your phone. It's a great tool to have. Be careful though, because when you go to take your written test prep, you're not allowed to take your cell phone in there. And if you have your app on there and you don't know how to use this, you're gonna have a tough time passing your written test. The second gotcha is when you go to take your check ride, some examiners don't like you to use the app and they wanna see you use this. That's not all of them, but some of them do. So you wanna be careful with that. All right, guys, so the next book that I recommend that you get is the FARAIM, that's short for Federal Aviation Regulations, Airman's Information Manual. This gets put out every year. This is an old copy. There's a new copy put out this year, 2022. Again, you can download a free copy off the FAA website. These are all the rules and regulations that the FAA puts out that we as pilots have to adhere to. So don't worry, you're not going to have to read this, or I should say study it, but you are going to have to learn how to navigate it. So that's where your instructor is going to come in. He's going to make you feel comfortable on how to use this book. Essential, I like the paper copy. A lot of students and pilots tab the book so they can quickly go to quick references. I would definitely get a copy of this book. All right, guys, so the next two essential items that you're going to need to have is your sectional chart and your terminal chart. The sectional and terminal charts are navigation charts for pilots. You're going to be learning how to use these during your training with your flight instructor. These typically expire every 3 to 6 months, and you have to get current charts. The good news is they're pretty cheap. They're only about $7 to $8 to buy. And once they expire, I like to keep them, to put them up as wall posters to teach students later on. Some people like to use them for gift wrapping for Christmas. Whatever the case, they're inexpensive and cheap, and these are the two items you need. The next item that I recommend that you buy that's essential is an IFR training hood. The FAA wants you to have 3 hours of instrument training for your private pilot check ride. That's just some basic training that they want to give you. In the event you inadvertently fly into a cloud, they want you to have some basic understanding of how to get yourself out of a cloud. 3 hours of it's required, so you're going to have to put this on your head when you fly around so you can't see outside and you're only looking at instruments. Don't worry, your instructor is the one that's going to be telling you what's going on around you. They do make some glasses that you can use. They're called foggles. Those hurt my head a little bit. I like to use this because A, it's cheap. It's only $14.95. And B, it doesn't hurt my head as much. It's got this little rubber band around it, and I can just put it on over my headset and it doesn't hurt as much. So recommend that you get this one. Okay, so the last item that you're gonna need is a plotter. A plotter's gonna measure distances on the sectional chart and the terminal chart. You're going to need those for flight planning. Very cheap, $7, $8. You should be able to get one from any pilot store. All right, guys, so we've covered all the essential books that we need. The number 2 item that you need as essential is your logbook. Essentially, this is your record of training. This is where your flight instructor is going to write into your logbook and record how much flight time you flew, what ground classroom work you covered. Essential to have this. They make very different versions of it. They make big thick ones that are $30, $40, $50. They even make electronic versions of it. I like the paper version of it because I'm old school. I like the paper version. I like to have something in my hand. The online version, a ton of professional pilots use. It's really up to you on which version you want. This is $14.95. It's an inexpensive way to get started with your logbook. All right, guys, so the number 3 essential item that I recommend is a flight bag. Now, you don't actually have to buy a flight bag specific to aviation. You could use your gym bag. That's what I did to save some money when I first started out. The flight bags are really inexpensive. They're $30 to $50. If you do end up deciding to get an actual flight bag, an aviation bag, I recommend that you get the one that's got a separate compartment for the headset, because when you're trying to reach into there or put your headset away and the books are in the way, it can get a little bit clogged up in there. If you go to sporties.com as a website, they've got a ton of bags there that you can choose from. All right, guys, so the next essential item on the list are sunglasses. Essential to have these when you fly. You don't want the sun blocking your eyes, not being able to see traffic. Be careful what sunglasses you pick. I've got a pair of Ray-Bans right here. They're very lightweight, easy to use. If you pick a pair of sunglasses that are polarized, you're going to get a lot of extra protection from the sun. But you're not going to be able to see the screens in the cockpit if you've got a glass cockpit like a G1000. If you get non-polarized glasses, which is what these are, you're going to be able to see the screens. So be careful which one you pick. You've got a choice there. If you got a glass cockpit, you're definitely going to need to go with a non-polarized version. If you've got 6-pack steam gauges, you could go with the polarized version and see the gauges just fine. Another advantage to using aviators is how thin the frame is. When you wear these and you have a headset clamping down on your head, having a thicker frame is going to kind of hurt your head after about an hour of wearing them. These thinner frames are going to keep your headset from digging into your skull. All right, guys, so the fifth essential item that you're gonna need is a fuel tester. A fuel tester is exactly what it says. It's gonna test the fuel before you go fly. Essential, you have to test the fuel. Now, the flight school that you're at more than likely is gonna have one in every airplane, but I can't tell you how many times I've gone out to an airplane and the fuel tester's missing. More than likely what's happened is the student that flew the airplane before you accidentally takes it home, leaving you without a fuel tester at the airplane and canceling your flight lesson. That's a big bummer. So if you go buy a tester, they're 10 bucks, have it in your bag. It's always clutch to have one of those. It'll avoid a cancellation of your lesson. All right, guys, so the sixth essential item that I recommend you have is just a basic terry cloth towel. I recommend that you keep two with you. One to clean the windshields and one to wipe the oil off the dipstick on the airplane. Again, the flight school is probably gonna have this stuff there, but you're probably gonna get there, somebody's gonna accidentally take it home or throw it away in the garbage. It really is essential to have a couple of these handy with you so you can wipe the screen and wipe the oil and not have to worry about a dirty screen when you fly. All right, guys, so the seventh item that is essential you're gonna need is an aviation headset. More than likely, your school is going to have headsets they provide to you. Some schools will charge you for the rental of the headset. I provide them free of charge at my school. I use David Clark headsets for the students. I could have gone with a little bit of a cheaper headsets for the students, especially because I don't charge for them, but you don't want to be up flying and not able to hear air traffic control and be uncomfortable. So the David Clark headsets are a really sturdy headset that really lasts a long time. Getting about 20 years of usage for a David Clark headset is not uncommon. They're about 350 bucks. I'm going to put a link in the description below of all the different headsets that you can buy. I've got a BOSE headset for myself. They are pretty expensive. They're 1,200 bucks. So if you've got the extra money, I would go for the BOSE David Clark headsets. They're super comfortable to wear. They don't hurt your head after about an hour or two of usage. You can wear them all day. I do recommend though that you avoid using the lower end headsets. They go for about 99 bucks because after about an hour of usage, they really start to hurt your head and give you a headache. All right, guys, so item number 8 is a kneeboard. So what this does is it comes with some Velcro here, and you're supposed to Velcro this around your leg, and it unties your hands so you can write stuff down from air traffic control. When I started flying, I used a kneeboard to write stuff down, but as I progressed through training, I kind of started preferring not to use one. It got in my way of things. So it's really up to you and whether you think this adds value to your training to use a kneeboard. Some people like to use it, some people don't. I don't use a kneeboard anymore, but I did when I started. So play around with it, see what you like, and if you like it, they're fairly inexpensive, about 20 to 30 bucks for a kneeboard. Item number 9 on the list are iPads. So great tool to have for training. They build situational awareness and help you see where you are relative to the position of the airplane. However, word of caution, some examiners that are giving you your check ride and your test don't let you use iPads. So if you're using them during training and you become dependent on them, when you go to take your check ride and he takes it away, you're gonna have a tough time passing a check ride. I never used an iPad when I was doing my private pilot's license because they didn't exist. So think about whether you want to use this for your primary training or not. All right, guys, so item number 10 is kind of a hidden gem that I like to give my students. The link's in the description. It's a YouTube video on a private pilot ground school put out by Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Highly recommended. It's supplemental to ground school. It's not a replacement for ground school, but it is a high quality first class production on private pilot training. They use a Cessna 172. It's a really good production, and it's 63 videos of the entire private pilot ground school. Highly recommend you watch it. It will save you time and money to watch those videos and go back and ask questions to your instructor. If you guys found this video useful, click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time.